All right. Hello, lovely peoples. I am, as you can tell by this title, going to make a video on my own thoughts about Michael, Freddy, and Jason, which in hand means Halloween franchise, Friday the 13th franchise, and Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I'm just going to talk about my opinions. You don't have to love them. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to care. If you have a hard time hearing other people's opinions, this video is not for you. And just so everyone is clear, I'm not going to talk about every single 30-something video. Maybe some other time I'll like rank them. But I feel like so many people have done that already. It's like, I don't think you can rank them and then it would stay the same. But I don't know, maybe we'll see. I got some questions for myself that I answered previously because I have some notes here that I'm going to use to get me through this. Just because it's a lot of thoughts and I want to make sure I touch on everything that I had initially thought. So we're gonna start with Halloween franchise. My personal sum up of thoughts from that. I have two mics, by the way, because when I only use one, it sounds muffled. So we're just gonna have two mics for my two personalities that might be in our video today. Anyway, Halloween, okay. Michael Myers. Obviously it's a classic. I mean, it's actually the original of all of these movies. Like it's the launch starter for what has become the Michael vs. Freddy vs. Jason debate. So Halloween as a movie in itself, you can't knock it because it's an original. But getting into that, there are, and you're gonna see me complain a lot about this throughout a few of these, there are a lot of sexual innuendos that make me wonder, did we just want naked girls in the movie just to get like the porn obsessed people to watch? Sorry, I just got distracted by that behind me. Okay, lovely. I forget which Halloween movie, 5 or 6, or I don't even remember. I should have wrote that down. But the guys being turned on by the girl's dead body, like discussing if they would fuck a dead body, and like kind of entertaining it. Okay, I noticed that this is a big franchise that likes gory rape scenes, especially more later on in the series. Like Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 felt very cohesive, but I'm jumping ahead, but they felt like almost separate from what came after. And that's not saying that some of the movies that came after weren't good, but they felt like Halloween 2 actually did feel like, even though Laurie doesn't even come until, well, she's not active until like the last 15 minutes, which I'm gonna get into my thoughts about Laurie too, because I don't know if they're very popular or not. I actually haven't really looked into what people think about these, because I wanted my own fresh perspective on this video. Anyway, getting into that, Halloween 3 literally didn't even have Michael, which I imagine everyone has been like, what? Like, how is it Halloween 3? It was good. It was a good entity on its own, but it doesn't belong in the Halloween franchise because it's not Halloween. And the fact that they still used the classic Mike Myers music, weird choice. And I did see that, like, when it came out, a lot of people were like, what the fuck? Like, what is this? But overall, I like the idea of Season of the Witch. Like, I like the concept, I understand. But it's not Halloween. It's just not. It stands well on its own, sure, yeah. But it just didn't make sense to me. Which, you know, then Halloween 4, they learned their lesson and brought it back, which I actually really liked Halloween 4. Halloween 4 was, it was good. I also liked that with Halloween 4, he was a little bit less, subtle, if you could call it that. Like with the first movie, he's like subtly stalking Laurie the whole time, to the point where, I mean, to me, it's, to the viewer, it's really not that subtle, but to the point where it's like no one else even notices except her. But in Halloween 4, he literally just approaches people so nonchalantly. Like, it's almost like he's like, yeah, fuck the shtick, and just came to kill, and has no real hidden motive to it. It's like, he literally was just like walking up to people like, hey, yeah, okay, like, oh. I mean, I kind of liked it because it didn't come off lazy to me personally. Because, like, a lot of times that can be very much like, oh, wow, y'all didn't, like, the writers didn't want to think of something, like, some sort of creative way to get him here. You know, oh, he's just here now, he's just showing up. But for me, I actually found it very comedic. I actually thought it was quite funny that he was just like, alright, hi, yeah, okay, choke you out, kill you, stab you, that's alright, carry on, next one. Like, it was just very weird in that way, but I actually liked it. So yeah, I made this note before, and I said it already, but Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 flow together nicely, but then after that it gets weird. I said that. So, part 2. That whole, like, lynch mob mentality, which actually was similar to, like, Freddy vs. Jason, which I'll also speak about later. Like, of everybody, like, trying to band together to, like, come and, like, get Michael. Because, like, you know, once a killer is out after the first part, it's like, where else do you go with it? And I get that. But the people in this movie were just way too fucking stupid for that to even really be believable, honestly, and, like, to not be bought, like, for me to buy into it, like, wow, they really are, like, intent on this. Like, it just didn't feel like that. It felt very much like, I hate in any franchise, in any movie, and I'm gonna complain about this more later, when they're just so blatantly dumb. And I don't think that's an unpopular opinion at all. I hate when the people in the movie are, sorry, my mic's, okay, anyway, the group of people trying to go after Michael, just morons. And I hate that shit in these movies. Like, at least make it believable. Like, at least, that leads me into Laurie now. In the beginning of part 1, we are supposed to buy into the idea that Laurie is this very level-headed, smart, intelligent, like, school-focused girl. We're supposed to buy that she's, like, the smarter one of her surroundings. Even down to, like, Michael stalking her, and she's the only one noticing it. Fair. Okay. But then, all of a sudden, when it really becomes life versus death, towards the end of the movie, she is an absolute jackass. I'm just like, is this the same girl? Is this the same character? Am I supposed to believe that's the same person? Her fucking... First of all, standing outside the door banging on her like, ah, standing against the house as Michael's walking towards her. girl, her hiding herself in the closet to get away from Michael. Yeah, that's gonna work. Let's hide in an area where I can't possibly go anywhere except the way the killer's gonna be once he comes. Because let's be real, it's not if, it's when. That shit pissed me off. Like, she's like all supposed to be this like smart, grounded girl, and yet when it really matters, she's stupid. She makes the dumbest choices ever. And I'm like, okay, girl, like, you had me until you didn't. Like, this. Alright? I do like, though, that they actually have Laurie survive throughout the franchise, as opposed to, like, Friday the 13th, where Alice gets killed right at the beginning of part 2. So it's like she survived strictly just for a cliffhanger. We'll get into that further later, but that's true. I do like that Halloween had Laurie, like, for a while in it, even though then she, like, faked her death. Obviously, part 1 is a classic and is the original for every franchise that follows, so you gotta respect that for what it is. I did say that before. And then, like I said before, Michael's, like, subtly stalking her in the beginning of the movie, and she's paranoid, and then all of a sudden, when she's babysitting that kid, and he's talking about the boogeyman, and he's all like, what the hell, who is that? And she's, like, dismissing him, all of a sudden, all of that concern went out the window? Like, you didn't see this man all day? Okay. The constant clumsiness, which is such a fucking typical shtick in a lot of these movies. Like Laurie entrapping herself in areas which she would obviously not survive, and not believable, especially the way they set her character up in the beginning. True. I absolutely hate how weak and helpless she became from one movie to the other. Like, as the franchise went on, she got just weaker and weaker as a person. And she started off as, like, a very, at least a little bit self-assured girl, like, and she just weakens, and I guess that's, we're supposed to buy into it, because, like, that's the power of Michael, but she literally, by the end of the series, or by the end of her time, she's a whole nother character. I mean, by the end of the movie, she's a whole nother character, but it only goes further from there. Like, okay, that's continuity, I guess. Thinking back to the kind of person she was at the beginning of Halloween Part 1, she skewed very far the opposite way. True. Part 4, The Return of Mr. Myers, was an upgrade from Part 3. I think it's a good contribution to the series. I do like the visuals in that, like Michael's shadow in front of the window, then it flashes his infamous mask, like, in the light. The fire at the auto store I thought looked visually intriguing, so to speak. Michael's face in the mirror shattering when Jamie backs into it, that looked awesome. I was attentive during the movie, found it comedic, like I said, about the way he was approaching everyone so, like, blatantly, like, yeah, hi, I'm Michael, you're dead, cool. It was, like, not suspenseful as far as the victims go, but I kind of didn't hate it. Like, it was funny to me. Let's get into Friday the 13th. Now, I have a soft spot for Jason, even though obviously he's a psycho killer. That is what it is. Out of the 3, I think I like him the best. And I'll get into that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, Friday the 13th as a whole, the whole franchise, I feel like they're kind of made to just be very digestible and easy to watch, and, like, you don't really need storyline to understand what's going on. You don't really need to, like, you can, like, walk out to go to the bathroom and come back and still be, like, on par with what's going on, which I think is good for like a mindless watch, you know, if you're not really trying to get invested in anything, then whatever. Continuity is not even considered in this franchise, so I'm not even gonna bring it up, but it's entertaining nonetheless. But okay, so going into part of my love, so to speak, use that word lightly for Jason. He is tough, man. That, like, I find myself when I'm watching this franchise not even really questioning whether he's alive or not. Like, you know how like there's moments where like Michael Myers like will fall down, it's like, oh, is he dead? Obviously we know he's not, but when you're first watching it, you're like, did they actually, like, did it happen? Like, did they really get him down? Where for Jason, I never found myself asking that question, ever. Never once. Even in Freddy vs. Jason, it's just pretty clear every time that he's capable of living through what seems like anything. That's how I perceived it. And then I compared it to Halloween 3 because it doesn't have Michael in it, so you're left wondering, like, is he gone? Is he gonna be back? Like, that's weird. Like, are they really changing the franchise right now? Because, like, that's it? Michael's gone? Weird. Which isn't true, but that's my comparison, is more of like, I've never thought any questions like that about Jason. Even during the movie, like, I'm always like, oh, yeah, he got it. It's good. Okay. He can take hits. He can take the hardest hits. Friday the 13th is a classic. It's simple, and it has good twists all around. Honorable mention to Marcy Standler's body being ahead of its time. Look good, girl. But what the fuck do they have her in granny panties for? Granny, like, literal, like, sad, saggy, tighty-whities. With that body? Okay, I'm going to get into Nightmare on Elm Street now. One of my first thoughts watching was that Freddy reminds me of Vecna from Stranger Things. It's like the same, almost the same kind of powers, like pretty much manipulation. It seems like Freddy has some level of telekinesis, so to speak. Like, cause there's a lot of things that he's just moving with his mind, we're led to believe, I think. But the whole, like, child molestation, or I don't find him very redeemable. Like, yeah, he's got a lot more personality than the other two, so you in a weird way, we kind of know Freddy more just because he is so, like, goofy and, like, very fucking unserious, especially as this series goes on. He just gets more and more unserious. But yeah, the whole child thing and the forcing teens to make out with him, and I know it's kind of the point, like, he's a villain, but that's, I think there's ways to be a villain that doesn't have to be like that. And like his quote at the pool party scene in part 2, "You are all of my children now." What are we insinuating? Like, is he like, does he have like the opposite of daddy issues where like he's wanted a kid? Like, I don't even know if we ever really get into like why Freddy is the way he is. I'm pretty sure like we're just meant to believe like he's just like that and he's just like sick. Because like the only vengeance he could possibly have is that the parents burnt him. But like, okay, they burned him because he was already doing crazy shit, killing their kids. Like, what? This franchise is extremely gory overall, which isn't my favorite because I have hemophobia, which is the phobia of blood. So yeah, there was a lot of times I looked away. I still really did like a lot of the storylines, regardless of a lot of shit that Freddy did and said. I'm prepared to watch murders and gore, of course, But I do not need to see an entire room get covered in this girl's blood while she gets killed by Freddy. That's a reference to the first movie where, God, I forgot her name. She was obviously fucking the guy, because that's always what happens first. And then she's, like, getting dragged on the wall and shit, and, like, her blood's just smearing all over the room, and it's all over the bed, and I was literally like, like, very vocal during that moment and looking away a lot. I was not into that. That was just something I didn't need. Anyway, I respect it for what it is. We came to watch gore, and yet they gave us gore. And the whole franchise is very gory, like that. Anyway, I do feel that in a few of these movies, they sort of frame Freddy almost like an anti-hero, which is like a villain that you're made to feel for, but they don't give us anything to feel. It kind of just feels more like there's like a patheticness to him, but nothing redeemable, because it's like there's no backstory as to why he is like this. And not that you can really even redeem yourself when it comes to like children and being, I found that hard to buy into. I'm not one of those people. Anyway, there is a lack of continuity from one movie to the other, which I feel like all of them, we can go on a whole rampage about how they're all like that, and I'm not gonna bother, because at this point it is what it is. It's entertainment, and like leave it as it is. I do like that Nightmare 2 has a male lead, which doesn't happen too often. It's oftentimes, a lot of the times, the girl. It switches it up from the usual cliche. I like Freddy's quote. I did make a list of quotes at the end, but I noticed I quoted some in the middle of these. Also, Freddy said to Jesse, I can't even remember now, "You've got the body, I've got the brain." And then he rips his scalp open. Why? That... Okay. Oh, and that scene in, I don't know if it was 4 or 5, where he's, like, eating the people pizza. Ugh. Bitch, no, thanks. That was nasty looking. And then I think Alice. Wait, Alice? Yeah, there's an Alice. I just got confused. I forgot her name. That shows how uninvested I started to get towards the later ones. But when she's having this dream about like him force feeding her, and her cheeks are like all puffed up and like just so fucking disturbing looking. Yeah, not for me. And then him making out with Lisa before she burns him, which will become a trend more and more throughout the series. I didn't love that, that's for sure. Very nasty looking, and it's just not the vibe. No thanks, don't touch me with your crusty claw, sir, okay? Damn. Overall, I like part 1 and part 2. We're about to get into a rant, just so y'all know. Wish Nancy was in part 2, but fast forward to part 3. Nancy's in part 3. This immediately gets better. Why is she not in every single movie in the sequel? Someone needs to tell me. I need answers. I know it's way far in the future from when these are made, but what were they thinking? The whole franchise goes downhill without her. That's for sure. And yes, I do credit her for that. I do. She is truly the greatest protagonist any horror movie could ever ask for. She's smart, always the smartest in every room she's in. She's strategic, she's willing to fight, she's gorgeous. She's not easily manipulated by Freddy, and she's sturdy on her feet. That's a big one. I put cough cough in parentheses there, so that's why I did that. Cough cough at every single other victim of a killer in a movie. Now, I gotta make this more believable. At every single other victim of a killer in any movie. A movie. After him stabbing her in the torso, she sums up enough strength to get behind him and force his razor to stab himself in the stomach. At least someone's doing something, and of course it's Nancy. And that's why this franchise suffers without her. No shade, LT. Anyway, Nancy dies at the end of 3. She should not have died in 3. I speak English well. She should not have died in the 3rd film because y'all needed her. Heather Langenkamp, you are our queen. Okay, but moving forward a bit, Alice is a badass. She comes in part 4. She's a badass. Lisa Wilcox did do a great job, especially because she had something very difficult to follow with Heather. Because I have to imagine, I haven't really looked into it, I have to imagine that people loved Nancy. Like, she was such a breath of fresh air in a horror franchise at all. She just was so built different, bro. But I do love the 80s badass aesthetic. Although Nancy can't be replaced and will always be my favorite, I do feel she picked up the slack where Nancy left off and she defeats Freddy. I love when she kicks his razor claw after defeating him. Touching on part 5 just really quick, very quick. Alice gives birth to Freddy's baby. Is that... Did I dream that? Because if I did, then I better get a psychiatrist. She gets flown back into the church from the previous movie, and he screams, "It's a boy!" or "It's a boy!" Real fucking weird. I said creepy, yes, considering his weird previous assaulting of teens. This movie is definitely out of the range from the ones that came before, true. That's part 5. I do think the concept is there, but it definitely feels like a way off from the earlier movies with the visuals and the plot. It literally only feels like a part of the franchise because Freddy's literally in it. Like, that's really it. A quote I don't like. "Alice, you want to make babies?" No. I do love the comic book imagery in that one. Like the sketch looking shit, and then it like fades into like, there was like a lot going on visually in that movie, like so much. Like when he becomes like a weird like snake being, and then there's like all this like kaleidoscope. Wait, that's a different scene. But there was that kaleidoscope shit in the church. Is this all in part 5? Part 4, part 5, one of them. And then he's like this big snake thing, and it's like flying at you almost, like pretty sick. Different, definitely different following the other movies, but I didn't think it was necessarily a bad thing. And then I wrote, quick rant. What the fuck is with this man forcing teenagers to make out with him? Hate it. Like, keep your fucking razor claw to yourself, you burn face creep. Ew. She's right. Alright, touching on Freddy vs. Jason quickly. I actually very thoroughly Thank you for that. Okay. I thoroughly did enjoy Freddy vs. Jason. I promise that's not me. If it was, I would definitely need to be wearing a diaper. Anyway, yeah, I really did like Freddy vs. Jason. I like the idea. They're all caught up on the fact that this Freddy dude is someone who caused issues in the past where they live. But then Jason fucking comes out of nowhere and they're not privy to who or what he is. And they're like, what the hell? We got like 2 shits to deal with here? Like when he shows up at the party and he just starts slashing people like the fucking hash-slinging slasher with his machete. It's very confusing to all of them. I love it. Then I wrote, getting into it. Freddy is no match for Jason physically, because it seems like no matter what Freddy does, Jason will survive. I've said this before. Jason is extremely strong. The only area where Freddy could have possibly really defeated Jason is through manipulation, which can very easily be done to him due to his mother and his past, which I'm gonna get to his fucking mother soon in a second. If Freddy was capable to really get in Jason's head with no interruptions, I think he could very easily take him out that way. But physically though, Jason can take hit after hit, fucking stab after stab, wound after wound, and he is immediately ready for a comeback. That motherfucker is strong, bro. Strong as hell. Ultimately, I was happy that Jason won. Even though it was sort of by default because the kids were so focused on defeating Freddy that they actually kind of helped Jason's victory. That being said, though, the ending is very intriguing when Jason comes up out of the water holding Freddy's head, and then they zoom in on Freddy and he winks at the camera. Bro, what an ending. And that, like, a moment like that, like, makes me understand the iconography of Freddy, because it's just so, like, it's very much like, it ain't over. This ain't over, boy. Like, I'll be back. I really did like that visual of it, even though, you know, I'm not the biggest lover of Freddy. I understand that he is iconic and that he, and I respect the whole imagery of his, like, being, and I get it. I get it all. Even though he's very, very questionable as a villain. Even more so than your average villain. Alright, then I wrote my favorite quotes. I take back every bit of energy I gave you. You're nothing. You're shit. From our queen, Nancy. Help yourself, fucker. At the pool party scene in part 2, Freddy says that. I'll send you to hell. Tell him Freddy sent ya. From the Dream Master.
Hello, I do not know why I said it like that, because that's not correct, but, I wrote the correct quote on the screen, but I guess I was getting a little delirious. I don't really know. Okay, anyway.
Rest in hell, Alice says in the Dream Master. We'll see, bitch. We'll just see. Freddy in the Dream Master. Does anyone else find it funny when Freddy says bitch? Like, the way he says it is just very, like, oh, okay. Like, because, like, the difference between Freddy and Jason and Michael is Freddy actually speaks. We don't really ever hear Michael or Jason speak. And yet Freddy is, like, so full of, like, sass and so much to say. And he's very bold with his words. It's, like, as if, like, the killing isn't enough. He needs to be, like, a real fucking sassy bitch queen, too. Okay, you know, cool. But I do find myself laughing every time he says bitch. Like, we'll see, bitch. Like, he's just so, like, oh, great. Time to die, you Scarface limp dick. Love it. From Mark and the Dream Child. I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly. That's from part 6, and obviously this is classic. It was the boogeyman, says Lori. As a matter of fact, it was, says Loomis. And now let me get into these questions that I had written down. Who would ultimately win in a battle? Michael versus Jason versus Freddy? I think Jason. If we're really talking about a battle, where like there's no weird like roundabout bullshit going on. We're really battling it out. I think Jason will win. I don't think Michael will win at all. I don't think Michael could beat either of them. I really don't at all. But that's not to throw disrespect on Michael's name, because he did come first. They all are a makeup of him, or an extension of him. That's true. But how your own copycats, so to speak, how are they better than you? Just all right. So I said Jason, but I also said Freddy and Jason also seem more difficult to kill than Michael, which is what I just said. Jason can take much harder hits than the other two, and he doesn't get defeated as easily. I don't think there's a lie there, and I don't want to hear anyone being mean because I said that. You can have your opinion, and that's fine, and we can even talk about it. I'm willing to change my mind. I'm not closed-minded on this, but I do feel that way at this moment. Whose movies are the most enjoyable? Okay. I do think it kind of depends, like, on your mood sometimes, to be honest. Like I said, like, Friday the 13th is very good for, like, if you just want mindless watching. But, oddly, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I think, is one I would come back to more often. Which is weird because of all the complaints that I had stated. Don't come for me. But I wrote this, okay? Freddy becomes more and more unserious as the series progresses, or regresses. But in spite of shitty plots and uncomfortable scenes and lack of continuity, it is still genuinely entertaining the whole way through. And he always maintains a personality of some sort. Okay? Who was your favorite antagonist? Jason, if we couldn't tell. In a weird way, you actually kind of have to feel for Jason in his origin story, like with his, even with his mother, because I don't buy that mother was a good mother. I just don't. Even though his death isn't her fault, the way she was like so vengeful over that for so long, and it literally indirectly manipulated his dead body to want to go and kill all these people. Who's the real villain there? I don't know, I'm just saying, like, I think Jason has the most potential out of all three of them to actually just have been a good citizen. I really do. I actually really believe that, because there's at least a reason for his vengeance, so to speak. There's actually vengeance to have. And also, it wasn't even his idea. So, take that for what it is. I don't like his mother. I do not like her name. Fuck, what's her name? Alexa, what's Jason Voorhees' mom's name? See, I don't even like her enough to even know.
Jason Voorhees' mother is Pamela Voorhees.
Right, Pamela. Okay. I like Jason. I don't like his mother at all. Jason is almost even a mental victim of hers too. Like, he could have just rested in peace and her spite wouldn't have had to become his. I do believe that. But then we wouldn't have a franchise, would we? I wrote, but of the three, he is the least evil in my opinion. The evil is more outside himself, if that makes sense. There is less hope for Michael or Freddy being a good person than there is for Jason. So ironically, he is my favorite. Okay? Who is your least favorite antagonist? Freddy. Although I do have appreciation for the iconography and imagery of his character, I find him to be the least moral, if you can call any killer moral, of the three. As opposed to Jason, who was drowned as a child, he is also very physically inappropriate with young teens. So that right off the bat just makes him the worst. I mean, duh. He's the most manipulative, sick-minded, and dark out of the three. Which I'm sure for some people that makes them, like, it makes him their favorite. Fair enough. That being said, though, I thoroughly enjoyed Nightmare on Elm Street, especially the first one. which is ironic because it is, in my opinion, the most gory movie out of the 3 originals. If we're just talking about Halloween Part 1, Friday the 13th Part 1, and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1, it is the most gory in my eyes. And I spoke about my phobia of blood before, which seems very counterintuitive, but whatever. But regardless, it is the most invested in characters I have felt regarding Nancy and Glenn. I was extremely invested in their connection and them as characters and them working in cahoots to defeat Freddy. To put it simply, fuck both their parents. They were extremely unhelpful in just the entire movie. They were actually kind of more the villains than Freddy, to be honest with you. They were so unhelpful and really more helpful to him. I have a rant about that further on. Right now, who was your favorite protagonist? Nancy, bitch. Nancy. In simple terms, she is fucking smart. She doesn't waste time. She doesn't do like the whole falling 12 times shtick to build suspense and to... No, she don't do none of that. She has strategy, she has ideas, she's pulling him towards her to defeat him. She's like, I need to get this shit taken care of. She is not on any bullshit at all. She's got real war strategy going on. She is entrapped by her idiot mother and not taken seriously by her father, which I will get into in a second, and is looking for a way out. She is absolutely the most strategic and yet the quickest thinker. It's a good mix. It's good to be able to improvise and also be strategic. Sometimes you need both. I cared the most about her journey and her defeat of Freddy. Super true. I think that's going to be the movie I rewatched the most. For sure. Out of all of these, I just genuinely really enjoyed her, Heather Langenkamp and Johnny Depp's performance in this movie. I really loved their dynamic and I loved their characters. Quick rant. Her parents, and Glenn's too, pissed me the fuck off. Which is true. Her mom doing anything to lock her inside. Bro, with those fucking bars outside, the fucking front door is locked, and like that girl can't even leave the house. It's giving Mother Gothel from Tangled. That's what it's fucking giving. Like, get your shit together, you alcoholic animal woman. You don't even know what's going on here. Like, okay. Her father not taking it seriously when she's screaming. Like any normal parent would be like, oh my god, what's wrong with my kid? Like, why is she like losing it right now? Screaming out the window in pure like panic and desperation and help me. The fact that he didn't show up when she asked him to wake her up, like, he clearly does not take her seriously. That's what that told me. And I don't necessarily hate her dad, but I don't respect him. That's for sure, because that's not a good dad. Because regardless if you take them seriously or not, if they're genuinely screaming out the window like that, and you're literally across the street, you can very easily go see what's going on, and you just don't even bother? Ew! Like, what? You're not ew. Just, okay. And it's a testament to how smart she is, because she ends up capable of waking herself up from the nightmare. And that moment in the movie where she turns away from Freddy and says, I take back every bit of energy I gave you. You're nothing. You're shit. Love it. It's a great statement against somebody whose really one true power is manipulation. Like, he literally fed off the fear of his victims. That was like Freddy's medicine, so to speak. And when she doesn't give him that, and she doesn't even look at him, this is why we love her. This is why we love her, because she's got the brains. She knows what she's doing. Even if she don't think she does, in the moment she's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what we're doing. Lovely. I love it. Yeah, Nancy's that, she's that bitch. She is. She really is. I love her. Anyway, let's sum this whole video up. Alright, favorite antagonist, Jason, Friday the 13th franchise. Favorite protagonist, Nancy Thompson from Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Favorite movie, Nightmare on Elm Street. Simply for the plot and the investment I felt in Nancy and Glenn. True. Honorable mention to Freddy vs. Jason. I did really like that movie. And my favorite movie sequel overall. Somehow, and this could change because I think I Friday the 13th could be a good competitor. Even though Halloween too, but Halloween just gets thrown off with part 3 altogether that I'm like, I can't even make that my favorite. In this moment, I feel like it's Nightmare on Elm Street. But Friday the 13th could compete. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And that is my Michael vs. Jason vs. Freddy, Halloween vs. Friday the 13th vs. Nightmare on Elm Street video. Why does that look like a sad face? Oh, okay. Yeah, I hope you guys, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you don't come for me for my opinions. I'm glad to hear yours, just don't be a bully. Cause I don't deal with bullies, not the way you'd want me to. Anyway, yeah, I hope that, you clicked on this video and it gave you all you've ever needed from one of these kinds of videos. And, the mic stopped working fucking an hour ago. Yeah, I will be back. I am watching currently the whole Saw series, and I will be back before Halloween to talk about that one because I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of emotions that I don't know I can rationalize right now and compartmentalize right now, but I do have the intention to get that out literally within the next week, so I'll see you guys soon, okay? Bye!